Let's go.
Moving on. Here we go.
What's our first topic? Dream
We
Team.
are Dream Team 2024, baby.
And the theme of Dream Team is that, look, the corporate elites have their dream team, which is two different parties, which is Joe Biden and Trump. It doesn't really matter. It's they're winning either way with this crew.
That's right. They're winning either way. And we all didn't have a choice. Well, somebody just wrote something about it was Jonathan Chait, and we never really went into that article, but he said something about, why didn't the left, why didn't the pro-Palestine group run a candidate of their own? And I was like, well, what are you talking about? Like, there were no primaries. Nobody was really allowed on the ballot. Biden isn't doing any debates. He might not even debate Trump. And if you're in the Green Party or running there is one editorial after another saying how, well, then you really just want to elect Trump. So it's like, no matter what you do, they're going to tell you why you're wrong.
Of course. Why don't you start your own party? Why don't you not start your own party? Because that's hurting democracy.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what is it? Which one?
Just whatever you're doing, it's wrong.
Yeah.
I agree with everything you say, just not the way you say it.
And are we held to the standard of like anything you disagree with is all electing the president every 4 years, and then you just accept what the president puts out and the policies of that party? I mean, democracy is based on people rioting until the leadership listens. I mean, that's historically the only way in a democracy things change.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, but I mean, that, somebody did that tweet a few months ago that I thought was so great. I know we all talked about it and we had it on here, but, liberals agree with every civil rights movement except the one that's currently happening, and disagree with every war except for the one that's happening currently. Like and that is just always the way. They're going to take credit for everything and sort of like wrap everything up into the broad left, even though they don't get up off their asses. They tell you exactly how what you're saying is uncivil and not helping your case. And,
Yeah, obviously it's the way you protest. It's what you protest. It's the time you protest.
It's inconvenient. You're turning people off. Yeah.
I mean, look, if Trump's probably going to be worse than Biden, but like, let's be honest, over 20 to 30 years, is it better to change things and have a hard 2 to 4 years, or just never change things?
Yeah.
Imagine you're going to live more than 20 more years.
Yeah.
Right. Do you want to change it now, or do you want to wait and just tweak it a little bit in 4 election cycles? Because now's not the time to fight this stuff.
It is never the time.
And throw in climate change, throw in all the dire situations people are in, throw in all the young people feeling so hopeless about the future. And, you can't just say, don't talk about that stuff now. This is really affecting a lot of people's lives and futures now.
Exactly. And it's only gotten worse. I mean, we just talk about this all the time, but Joe Biden to me is indistinguishable from George W. Bush. Except his body count. Well, no, I mean, he was a big supporter of the Iraq War also. So yeah, no. And that's the farthest right Democratic president of my lifetime. So that's what voting lesser evil has gotten us.
And the Iraq vote was supposed to be an albatross for any Democrat who supported it until they were stuck with Joe Biden. Yeah. And then like, well, we got to go with the old guy because, he can win.
Yeah. And now it's kind of fine. And now we all miss George W. Bush because of Trump, which is so ridiculous. But yeah, I mean, it was one of the first group of uncommitted that we watched that clip of the Palestinian Americans in Michigan. And one of the organizers said something like, it might have to hurt in the short term to feel better in the long term. And the truth is, right now, if Biden wins, what that shows the Democratic Party is they can get away with absolutely anything. That they can win even with a genocide, even with not fulfilling any of the promises that Biden ran on, even while completely throwing under the bus every single member of their base. And I don't know. I think that could be really damaging, actually.
I absolutely agree. And I think the unfortunate part is even losing doesn't reinforce that the left was right, because they've mastered the propaganda game to where, well, now they just blame the left and keep trying to push people back to the right.
Right.
It's the left that is the reason we lost. And
heads you
guys
win.
Just keep it quiet this time. Keep it quiet. You wouldn't in 2016, and that's why we're here.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Yeah, you're right. It doesn't matter either way, does it?
Well, it does matter.
You lose.
It does matter, because we need more people to believe the Democratic Party is a huge part of the problem.
Yeah.
And that's because we're going to win we're going to put pressure on these politicians in a different way, with the general strike eventually. And massive disruption. And if people think the Democratic Party is okay, it's not going to happen. If people think these people aren't working for us at all, it's more likely we get something to happen.
Yeah, which is why, I mean, right now, I don't know. I mean, there's nothing good about a Trump presidency either, but I do think that, liberals at least are a little more outraged, or at least pretend to be a little more outraged. Then they'll care about that genocide. So speaking of the way we're talking about politics, and it is just so sad, but that's the way it was framed in the latest AP poll. It was AP and no, I've got it written down somewhere else, NOPAC or something. But Americans believe that both President Biden and former President Trump's time in office did more harm than good. I mean, it is so insane that 70% of the population of each party did not want the person running, or of the whole nation. No, of the whole nation did not want either of those two men to run. And that's who's running. Like, the fact that people think they did more harm than good, and then those are only two options out of 330 million people.
It's not a democracy. That's the bottom line. The two-party system has destroyed any concept of, like, our choices aren't there.
Yeah.
Like, democracy is supposed to be a choice, not, a coin flip for which fucker is going to win.
Yeah. All right. So let's see who's doing better over here. And this is small. So yes, here they come. Devin, you're back. You can make them my readers. Okay. So we've got, for the most part, most people do not see a personal benefit from either the Biden or the Trump presidency. So did you think that Biden helped or hurt? Did you think Trump helped or hurt? And it's funny, white people and men heavily think that Trump, and higher income people, that Trump was actually more helpful than not. But for the most part, they're both stuck in the 30s and 20s of help and hurt, or neither. I mean, that is just the saddest graph, because they're just total failures. Like 30%.
They are. I mean, to me, the next few graphs from this are more telling in a way.
Yeah.
Because that graph, unfortunately, is just like the left against the right against the left.
Right.
But when you break it down a little bit, this is Biden's impact. Did he help a lot, neither, or hurt a lot for creating jobs? And so you see Democrats, only 59% of Democrats think he helped create jobs. Like, despite all the rhetoric about how the economy is great, only 59% of Democrats thought so.
Yeah, that's not a resounding success for your own party.
And you win elections largely with turning out your base and how the independents turn. And independents, 60% thought negatively, neither or no, I'm sorry.
Hurt a lot. No, yeah, you're right. 35, 70. All right, I'm putting my readers back on.
It's the other way. It's 71% thought he neither had an impact or hurt a lot.
Yeah.
So only
70.
24% of independents thought positively about Biden creating jobs. And that's the whole election, is this economy and Trump is bad and abortion. Those are the things it's going to come down to.
24% of the people you need. Unbelievable. Relations with other countries. I mean, like, for Democrats, even 50%, I would assume that's fairly low, but like, what are those 56% thinking? What is our relationship with other countries? The whole world hates us right now.
Yeah,
I think this is worse than when Trump was president.
That 56% just shows massive ignorance on the reality in the world right now.
Yeah.
Like we've lost our moral
standing
in the world. We've lost our economic standing in the world. BRICS has taken over.
Yep.
On every aspect, the U.S. is in massive decline. So no person should say our relations with other countries are better. Like, the case to make is not even there. Like, I don't even know how they could pretend to argue that.
Yeah. All right. So that's Biden. Did you want to look at the other numbers there? Climate change, which is a joke. Like, we're drilling more oil, and we blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. The biggest act of eco-terrorism, I think, ever. So,
yeah, probably not.
I mean, seriously, woefully underinformed, that those Democrats. They're just checking a box right now because they couldn't actually know the details. All right, so let's look at Trump. We should have them side by side. Everything is so small. But the numbers are pretty much flipped. I mean, it really just, as low as all of the positives are for both of them, the fact that, Democrats just toe the line for their guy and Republicans do for their guy. But so, yeah, I mean, it really is independence. And independence, I'm going to toggle back really quickly, because creating jobs, which is probably going to be one of the biggest issues, right, is the economy. The economy and cost of living. Independents think highly of Trump. 35%, 32%. All right, yeah, okay. And with Biden, independents, 24% and 19. Oh my goodness.
Yep.
19.
Yeah. So, I mean, and how the strategy that Democrats have to get Biden across the finish line is the economy, abortion, the other guy bad. Well, if independents don't see the other guy hurting them economically, they think the other guy was better economically.
Yep.
They're just not scared of all the fear mongering, because everyone lived through Biden, everyone lived through Trump. So you can look at the 4 years of Biden. Well, you can look at 2 and say we're almost going to be in World War III here, for one. You can look at the price of gas, which is not the biggest barometer, but that's one that people see and feel.
Yep.
But the price of groceries is a very real thing that falls on Biden.
Absolutely. That's huge.
And the rent, they haven't done anything about rent control. They're letting corporations buy all the housing up. And it didn't start under Biden, but it peaked under Biden, and people feel it under Biden.
And he ignores it. And he has a whole bevy of toadies who go write all of these, editorials, op-eds, everything's great. And it's just people who are complaining, and they don't know what their bank account's really saying. Whereas because you're right, like, it's not entirely his fault. Although, I mean, he's been in power for 40 years. So more than our last few presidents, it's actually more his fault than most. But if he at least gave voice to the concerns, instead of acting like we're all so crazy for, and like we just don't want to work hard enough, or we just spend too much money on eating things like dinner or whatever, I think
nobody is there to change the course of any of this right now, is the point. And that's why so many people are just completely disenfranchised, because they're onto the Democrats game. They're onto the Trump's game. It's one party. We don't have a choice. Social issues, we can vote on social issues. And that's kind of how I think a lot of the normie Democrats that I know, they kind of feel stuck on the economic stuff in part.
Yeah.
But they're like social issues, abortion
and LGBTQ QT rights. Like
yeah, and
that,
they'll
those are the two
say
things.
that, and the kids at the border, and they have no idea about the actual stuff at the border. They have
Yeah.
no idea that Biden deported more people. They have
Yeah.
no idea that Biden
Kids are still in cages.
is rewriting the laws to be even more cruel than Trump was.
Yeah. Had to be stopped
no
by
idea.
a federal court from saying we don't have to feed the people we're caging. I mean, yeah. So knowing the economic despair happening in the country and that this is a huge issue, which is why they've a little bit retired the Bidenomics, catchphrase. This is Biden's brilliant quip. Biden just delivered a line he's been trotting out at private events that someone recently told him he wasn't feeling the benefits of the economy. He was drowning in debt and needed help. I said, I'm sorry, Donald, but I can't help you. Come on, man. Oh my God. It's so disrespectful to all of the people who are just in tremendous pain right now.
Yeah, like, we got the billionaire, suck it Trumpers, and that kind of stuff works on people that just are, their whole identity politically is just orange guy bad. And they want him to suffer. They want the joke to be about him.
Yeah.
They want to look at the people with the MAGA hats and go, they want to drop the R word on the MAGA hat folks so hard.
Yep. And they do. God, I've never seen more liberals when they come out and talk about people in red states. They love using the R word and also telling them how they deserve their poisonous water and air. They shouldn't have voted red. It's vile. Yeah.
I really think the R word use thing is being pushed by the bots on the Democratic side. I really do. I think it's like it's a appeal to the normie guy. Like it makes Democrats look like we're one of you. We dropped the R word, hey, this woke stuff. We're not really woke.
Right.
Maybe
that is it. It's so vile, but maybe you're right.
I mean, I get it from so many of the predictable bots, like if you were really, it's the Democrats don't want to be woke, and wokeness hurts the Democratic Party because if we're woke, then, they got to actually listen to people and conform somewhat to what people think.
They're just regular guys like James Carville. You might be totally right. I think a little bit is it kind of just reveals that they're, sort of like Gen X and a little older Democrats are back when that wasn't like such a big deal to say that word or something. But I don't know. But maybe you're right.
And we stay on this theme of me being right because I just realized we figured out that I am the older of the two of us, making me the older and wiser and right again. So let's just
all right. Yeah, you're right. You're right. That's something I'll cop to. You're way older than I am, for sure. For sure.
Let me
so that again, like here is Mother Jones, I'm sure turning in her grave. RFK Jr., Jill Stein, Cornel West, none of them stand a chance. Look at that, even with the grammatical error, none of them stands a chance of becoming president, but they could play a key role in restoring Donald Trump to the White House. I mean, there's your democracy.
Yeah.
There it is.
Anyone not picking one of the two choices that everybody fucking hates.
Yep.
Those are the people that are the problem. And again, if you want somebody better on Palestine, run your own candidate.
Yeah. Don't do those protests that are so inconvenient for everybody.
And stop protesting. Yes.
Stop protesting.
Stop all of that.
The other thing that's happening right now in Donald Trump world, which is fascinating, what the libs are trying to make of it, is the Stormy Daniels trial. I guess, is that the only one that is definitely happening before the election? I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
The outcome, we should know the outcome of that one before the election.
Okay. So first, there was a big haha moment with Jake Tapper. He had Maggie Haberman from the New York Times on, and she had been writing notes about what she was seeing in the trial. I guess it's not televised. And she wrote something about Trump falling asleep, and he really wanted to press her on that, whoa, what do you mean? And she's like, well, he was sleeping. But he's trying to make a big deal about it because the only other leader of the free world who's ever fallen asleep in public at an important event is Joe Biden. I don't think that Trump is at the same point of sundowning as Biden, as hard as they try to make that happen.
Exactly.
But
And
yeah,
look, make the argument. I mean, look, if he fell asleep, it's interesting. It's salacious or whatever, but it also doesn't hurt his case in a way. Like,
it's like, I don't give a fuck
it's
about
all
this trial.
ridiculous, you know, like whatever.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, you know, Biden has been he's fallen asleep on the interview with the one-on-one with I believe it was a Japanese president, prime minister. A
climate change, like international convention with, I think, the G20 or something, like, fell asleep. I mean,
all the time. And
it falls off the stage.
That's not the end of the world to me. Like, honestly, like if you're old and you travel and the schedule, it doesn't matter. But the fact that when Trump might have possibly fallen asleep at something, which if he did, only proves he didn't give that shit much of a shit about. Like, it's just such a,
that matters less than like not caring about climate change.
To then equate that he's an old crazy bastard like Biden he's just a crazy bastard, but he's not an old deluded.
He's not at the same level. Yeah, exactly. It's just sort of grasping for straws. But so the other thing is, so just as a reminder for those of you who also fell asleep during this whole part of Trump world, as he started doing well in 2016, it came out, his staff realized that he had an extramarital affair. I think it was when Melania was even pregnant, but with this porn star, Stormy Daniels, and they did a catch and kill, right? They paid her $130,000, or Michael Cohen paid her $130,000 to go away and not talk to the press. And
and the catch and kill, the way they do it legally, although it's technically illegal, because of the campaign finance part of it. But what they do is they purchase the rights to the story. So we have exclusive rights. You can't release any of this information that has happened. It's not a real technical gag order. It's just a way that they operate with journalism.
Right. Exactly. So, but then he paid back Michael Cohen that money, but then used campaign funds to pay himself back. So, you know, it's a campaign finance violation.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the FCC or FEC it is an unmanned institution. They have been toothless for years. They don't enforce anything. There are no regulations on this stuff. We tried all we could to get them to investigate Hillary's. I mean, when you couldn't even investigate her Clinton initiative and all the access that was being bought, then they had
the global, the Clinton global
CGI. But so it doesn't exist. But you know, in this case, it's like, wow.
Yeah. So okay, so that's the one part of it. Then the other part, and so this is from the New Yorker, right? So here come those glasses again. The Stormy Daniels case, the first criminal trial of a former president in American history, is about much more than hush money. So this is what they're going to say. Would Trump have lost the 2016 presidential election if Stormy Daniels had gone public with her story? Prosecutors in Manhattan think maybe so. Sorry, I bit my tongue and I keep biting on it. It's swollen. I'm a mess, you guys. Oh my God. This question is at the heart of this week's criminal trial against Trump, the first against a former president. Trump faces 34 felony counts of falsifying business records. Okay. Basically, I'll just continue reading, which the Manhattan District Attorney, Alvin Bragg, claims was part of a scheme to conceal damaging information and unlawful activity from American voters before and after the 2016 election. The case has become known as the Stormy Daniels hush money case, which has made it easier for the public to dismiss because it seems like small potatoes. In fact, the argument that the prosecutors have made in court filings is focused on something closer to election interference. The case is about Trump lying his way into office.
Yes.
So, I get what they're saying. But we have a more recent case of something like that happening where the candidate didn't have to spend $130,000 because everybody in corporate media, and 48 former FBI employees, intelligence officials, signed on to a letter outlining their belief that the recent disclosure of emails allegedly belonging to Joe Biden's son has all the classic earmarks of a Russian information operation. So that came out, that letter signed by 50 former FBI officials in October of 2020, because they had just found the guy with the laptop had come forward, and there were all these, sort of incriminating, giving money to the big guy there, all these, like $1 million deals, right?
And let's not forget that this involved Ukraine.
Yeah.
That's kind of critical stuff, since we're at war, defending Ukraine.
Exactly.
Corruption.
So you have that is election interference, especially when it's been revealed. Oh boy, here they come, the readers. The same FBI personnel who were warning social media companies about a potential Russian hack and leak operation in the run-up to the 2020 election knew that the laptop belonging to Hunter Biden was not Russian disinformation. So
let's weigh those two. All right. Silencing a sex story.
Right.
First off, nobody can talk about Kamala's history with sex stuff because it's sexist, right? And I keep trying to every week. I keep trying to get a green light from Lila so I can go there, but she won't.
You can talk about Mayor Brown all you want.
No, but we're talking about sex stuff more or less, right?
Right.
I mean, granted,
infidelity, not like national security or war,
right?
Yeah.
But the use of funds is a
right.
It should be a reasonable thing, but like to compare the use of the federal government and the FBI to have 50 FBI agents sign on to something that they knew was false. Like this is another level. Like that's, you don't want to tit for tat this stuff, but like if you're a Republican and you see your guy going to possibly jail over silencing a sex worker versus this guy got 50 FBI people to lie about Hunter Biden, so it just bolsters their case. If you're a Republican, you're like, I'm leaning into this because everyone's against us. This is all phony. And they're right that the mainstream media with CNN and MSNBC are never going to give the real truth to this story because they are doing propaganda. So that makes them more likely to just listen to Tucker Carlson and all the wackos that are on the right with a lot of bullshit, but then occasionally give them the truth that they can't get anywhere else.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's incredibly dispiriting because you can't talk, like nobody talks about that. And in fact, the piece that I don't know if we'll end up talking about, but by the editor, one of the editors at NPR that he just wrote, and now he's resigned, but basically saying that NPR has lied. They've sort of just become, sycophants of the Democratic Party, and they lied about the Hunter Biden story. They lied about Russiagate, high strike. They've or at least withheld information or pushed certain stories that then when it turns out that they were wrong, they just move on and don't go back and correct it, right? Anybody can get something wrong, but then you make an apology and a retraction and you explain, and they just haven't talked about it. I mean, they said, we're not going to address the Hunter Biden laptop because we think it's disinformation and it's not pertinent to this election. They said that, and they never went back to correct it.
Well, it's the Russian misinformation piece that like they want that narrative to live on forever.
Yeah.
You put that out front and it still works. They still use it against Jill Stein. She had dinner with people from Russia once.
Oh God, and
Flynn was there too, though. I mean, there's and you got a million of those with Hillary. But the point is the Russian misinformation stuff. Yeah, Russia's trying to tweak our politics with propaganda. Right. We do it to other countries.
Yeah.
But all the studies after the fact showed it had no effect. Like the real stuff, looking at it.
You mean the Bernie cartoons, the sexy Bernie cartoons?
Yeah, the sexy Bernie coloring book, buffed Bernie. It had no effect, but people never heard the actual facts after the fact about that wasn't a big deal. Sorry about the hyping headlines we put out intentionally for months and months, especially right around the election.
That Hillary paid. Like, she paid
they planted these
Christopher Steele, to do that research or CrowdStrike or what was that, CrowdStrike? And then Yeah, and then plant the stories and say, oh, we're here, tell the FBI we're hearing this, and the FBI says, oh, we're hearing this, and then they can cite that the FBI and 17 different agencies are all in agreement. And the system is so massively corrupt, which I think is also part of the reason that this is the one that is taking hold, because it's the one that is least like how most of the other people are corrupt at a much higher level, right? Like, listen, Trump, you could have impeached him, I think, just for assassinating Soleimani. Like, you're not allowed to do that without some kind of approval, congressional approval, like strike on on a sovereign nation like that, right? There were things that he did that they absolutely could have taken him down for, and they won't, because it would incriminate them also. So
right,
I
all
think
the actual foreign policy stuff, all the things that we actually care about,
the financial
they can't get him
stuff,
for, but they can get him for
because they think it's gross.
sex
I mean,
work.
it's sort of like a social issue, right? It's like he's the grab them by the pussy guy. He's the guy
guy with the hilarious mushroom dick. Let's not forget the mushroom dick, which is kind of hilarious. I'm not gonna lie.
It's kind of hilarious, yeah.
But all that stuff is not, But meanwhile, 50 FBI agents knowingly lied for Biden, and that's not gonna
nobody's even talking about it.
We're not talking about that.
Yeah, it's crazy. All right. I think, is that enough of the dream team? I mean, do you want to talk about, oh God, I know there's so many other things.
There's too much. I mean, abolishing protests. So this is dangerous shit we're headed into right here.
Yeah.
Supreme Court effectively abolishes the right to protest in 3 states. And I had it written down, but it was Texas.
Yes. Well, so they're not doing, it's DeRay. DeRay McKesson and where was it? Louisiana, Mississippi, and Texas. But they've said they're not going to hear that case, which means that it leaves in place the lower court decision. And what that court decision says is that a protest organizer faces potentially ruinous financial consequences if a single attendee at a mass protest commits an illegal act. So, nobody's going to want to organize something if one of 10,000 people might throw a brick through a wall or hurt somebody, which, so.
But so as somebody that, knows law, meaning my mom was a judge and I worked in law, but if a ruling is if they don't hear the case, it effectively, like they said, upholds the lower ruling. So that is in its essence a ruling. So it's like, I just don't want to minimize it. That it's the same effect.
Right. So it is the same effect. No, you're absolutely right. And, then people will say, well, see, that's why you should have voted for Hillary in 2016.
Right. Who, meanwhile, obviously, like all Democrats, are supporting the people on the wrong side of this issue. So, like, the idea that we just vote for more of who Hillary says, if we actually voted for who Hillary says, if we voted for who Nancy Pelosi says, we would have abortion rights removed sooner.
Yeah, exactly. And also, there's a whole push now to get Sotomayor to leave the court in the next few months, because they know probably Trump is going to win, and then it will really be a stacked court. But that's sexist. That's doing a sexism. That's a misogyny.
Right. Like all the RBJ fanfare was worse than the Bernie coloring books.
Oh
I mean, people love RBJ, and she was great on a lot of issues. She was a tough bitch, kind of, that was her.
Yeah.
Her,
she was also such a corporatist.
Branding.
Yeah.
But she was
a corporatist and didn't have any Black staffers under her during her whole career. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah. And if you care about democracy, when you're her age, you think of retiring.
Yeah.
That whole thing. Also, it's already tainted. I mean, you think we would learn the lesson, but like now that they're bringing it up with Sotomayor, it's like, no, it's still sexist. It's still sexist.
For that one woman.
Now it's racist and sexist.
That's right. Big bigot.
Double whammy for Democrats. They love that.
Yep.